to one person. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom and Yasher Koach. Really nice, Scarlett. Just want to share a few words before we get to our Torah reading, although it's really difficult to follow. I want to talk about fish. So we all live in San Diego, and I don't know if you're aware, but there's a great fish industry here. And I'm referring currently about the fish that's available from the ocean. You can go to a fish restaurant, and you can get right off the ocean. There's, if you know the good finds of where to go. When you see the word local, it's actually really good fish. And truth be told, I actually enjoy much of the local catches, those that I could eat. And yet, in this week's Torah portion, it is fish that almost puts Moses over the edge. And if you have a chance just to open up and turn to page 800 in this week's Torah portion to 820. I'm looking at chapter 11, verse 10, 828. Moses heard the people weeping, complaining. And then you jump forward to verse 15. V'im kacha at oseh li hargeni na harog im matzati chen beinecha ve'el era barati. If you would deal thus with me, kill me rather, I beg you. Let me see no more of this wretchedness. Moshe hits the limit, and all because of fish. Why? Where am I getting it? Just move backward to verse 5. People of Israel are giving a complaint. If only we had meat to eat. And what do they remember? We remember the fish that we used to eat free in Egypt. And we remember, of course, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. So the rabbis ask, what's going on with this fish? Now, there's already a problem with the fish because the fish is described by the people of Israel as being what? It's free. And the occupation of the Israelites in Egypt is the slaves. Had to work pretty hard. Right? And they didn't do their work. Who knows what awaited them. And even when they started to rebel, their work became even more difficult. So the rabbis asked this question, what do you mean? How could there be free fish? What's going on here? One answer is given by Nachmanides. Nachmanides says, how am I going to reconcile this text? The people of Israel, they dwelled close to the river. And one of the benefits of living close to the River Nile is they would be able to scavenge for those small fish that were close to the shores. And that was a luxury that they were able to enjoy. And that's what they were missing. Ibn Ezra adds a slightly different twist on it and says they were able to catch these fish, and with these fish, they were able to sell it for a little. They were able to purchase these fish, for a very inexpensive amount of money, and thus they were able to benefit from. So it seemed chinam, which is the word for free, but it was really like a very, very affordable fish, which is what they missed. And Rashi comes forward and gives a very different answer. And I think Rashi is sort of saying, let's not play games here. What's this rebellion about? What's going on here? And what he says, what is chinam? What is free? For Rashi, he understands as free of mitzvot. That the life that the people of Israel were remembering when they lived in the land of Egypt was one that came before the Torah, where there were no mitzvot, commandments, required Jewish acts that the people of Israel had to perform. And here we are at the beginning of when they embark from Mount Sinai with this new Torah, and they're like, what? We got to do all these additional rules in order to get our sustenance? What's going on here? It's too much. And I think this is perhaps what really drives Moshe crazy. It's not so much of where the fish came from, but it's this idea that the people of Israel are struggling to understand the concept of mitzvah. Now, we can actually empathize with the people of Israel. They were slaves. They lived a life of obligation, and now they are free. And wouldn't it be great to be able to truly be free and no longer have these mitzvot? But that's not the plan for Moshe. That's not the plan of Israel for God. No, it's not a goal of God or Moses, God forbid, to return the people of Israel to slavery and to be subject to the tyranny of a Pharaoh. Not at all. But it's to live a life of freedom that also includes obligation and mitzvah. And for Moshe and for God, and they, I think, speak for how we express our Judaism. And there's a very powerful value that they carry, which is through the limitation of our choices, we're able to focus on what it is that is important for us as a free people. I'll give an example of this. I go back to the restaurants. Many different types of fish that one could have. There's things I understand to be clams. There's oysters. I'm told that this is a menu, and those do not fall within the guidelines and mitzvah of kashrut for me. So on one hand, it would seem that I am narrowing my choices by only being able to eat perhaps the local caught, halibut. But I think Rashi is hinting at something else, which is at that moment when I feel that I am narrowed, it's actually very liberating for my mind and soul. I don't have to go and grab everything. I actually have some direction, which frees up my mind for greater things, greater purpose, as opposed to being caught with the vast amount of choices that lie in front of me. There's a midrash that talks about when birds first came into the world, they complained to God and said, we're not as big as the other creatures. We just sort of waddle around. Why did you make us birds? So God said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to make you wings. And the birds then had these wings, and they realized that they were very, very heavy. So they said, hey, God, well, you just made our lives even worse. Now we got to schlep around these big, heavy things. So then the tradition teaches, the midrash ends, God taught the birds how to fly. We do carry with us an added yoke or an added burden or an added weight. And our task is how to live a life where we're not burdened by that weight, but we allow it to guide us so that we can live with deeper meaning and find joy. Perhaps that was why Moshe was so sad, because the people of Israel could not see that. But of course, our work is to continue the story of the people of Israel, to do a tikkun, to repair for the choices, the bad choices that they made. And I encourage everyone to think about, what are the mitzvot that you struggle with? What is an obligation that can be bearing? And how can you move it so that it can be a source of growth and guidance? Or what are the mitzvot that you truly already do and enjoy? And how is that a source of focusing you so that you can be liberated to live a more meaningful and joyous life? Shabbat Shalom.